Welcome to the CoSuccess and Conversation series. Welcome to today's episode of CoSuccess and Conversation. I'm delighted to say today we're going to be talking about scaling as a leader, and my guest is Anne Steiner. Anne is the Vice President of Product and Technology at Cprime, which is a very fast-growing consultancy that focuses a lot around transformation, agile training, and a number of other areas. Anne, welcome to CoSuccess and Conversation.
Thank you, Anton. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we talked about this idea, as I said at the start, around scaling as a leader, and it's a concept you've talked to me about in the past, and I've always enjoyed working with you. Talk to me a little bit about what does that mean to you, like an experience that you've had, whether it's for yourself personally or what you see when you're working with others.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really tough, but I think what it means to me is being able to influence more. Early in my career, because of like my upbringing and my DNA, I'm almost 100% German and the daughter of a civil engineer and a librarian. Like perfect was always the standard. And I've struggled throughout my career. And as I transitioned from being an individual contributor to more of a leader, both in product management and in just management ranks, trying to be perfect really held me back. And one of the most impactful lessons that a leader I had taught me was she said, you need to do more at 80%. Because if you do more at 80%, you'll be able to do more in general. And what she was really saying was that I needed to scale as a leader. And at the time she said that to me, I really struggled with that. I thought, you're telling me to not do something correctly or fully. But I came to really understand and appreciate her message because it was, you're limiting yourself to just being what you can do. Your real impact as a person and as a professional is to go wider and wider and to be able to influence a larger part of the organization or whatever it happens to be. So to me, that's really scaling as leaders. How can we as one person influence more? And notice I'm using the word influence, Anton, not do.
Yeah, no. And I can see it. And it's interesting when I'm working with, let's say, often with an executive coaching client who's a leader, we focus in three specific areas. One of them we look at is very much self-leadership. One is around how do you lead your team? And the other one is how do you lead others, which is more that sphere of influence, which is exactly back to what you said. But I think a lot of what you're picking up really nicely on is often when I'm told, congratulations, you have become a leader or you've been promoted, I get all busy about, well, what do I got to do with them and all about them. And it's, well, hang on, what about you first? If you haven't kind of got yourself in the right place, in the comfortable place, it's going to feel really weird and awkward as you kind of go through some of those other areas. So let's think for a moment around that idea of particularly people who are newer into leadership, in their first few leadership roles. We often get this question, and I'm very interested in your perspective, and it's come up a number of times recently, is as I sort of enter into the leadership world, should I be looking for leaders to emulate that I see, be they on one scale like, the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks, or another scale, whoever it might be, Sheryl Sandberg, whatever that might be? Or should I be focusing more around understanding and developing my own sort of, let's call it personal leadership style, or I've also heard it called leadership brand? What's your, as you think a bit about your own journey and what things happen for you, what's sort of your thoughts on that, Anne?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Oh, please no, don't ever try to emulate Steve Jobs as a leader.
That's a longer conversation.
Anton, I think it has to be a blend of both. You will not be able to lead authentically if you're not yourself. So to me, like every time I try to fake it or do something that's not natural to me, my personality, my personal beliefs, it doesn't come across well and therefore isn't inspiring, or people just kind of call BS on it. So I don't think you can try to be someone else. It would be like being a coach and walking into the locker room and emulating a Herb Brooks pep talk when you're really a mild mannered person. But there's a lot to be learned from the leaders around us. And to me, I look at leaders, be they peers, be they my seniors, past managers, all of that. I have taken something from everyone I've worked with and worked for. And unfortunately, maybe I think I've taken more from some of the bad leaders I've had than the good leaders. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm never going
I was going to clarify. Do I
to.
want to do that, or I'm not
Yeah,
going to do it that way? No, I've seen that. Yes.
and sometimes in time you get more of their perspective. So I really appreciate learning from other leaders. I look at them and I will think, wow, that person is really good at this thing I'm not good at. I need to get better about that. So we can learn, we can gain skills, we can like take advice or take practices. But I think the core of authentic leadership is you have to be yourself. So you're going to have to translate that thing that worked for Anton into a way that could work for Anne.
I like that. And when I was listening to what you were saying, I picked up on one piece because I think it is that blending. It's sort of as I'm consciously thinking, maybe how do I make sure my voice is heard in a meeting, for example? Well, there's a lot of models you can look at for that. It's the one that just barges in, doesn't matter what anyone's saying, cuts them off, speaks loudest. Or there's others that you notice just seem to be able, they don't necessarily say maybe a lot, but as soon as they start saying something, everyone sort of, pricks up their ears and starts listening. And I think what I've noticed is trying to emulate aspects. So saying I'm trying to be more effective in meetings, who does that really well of the leaders that I see around? Let me see if I can pick up on that. Now, to your point, I don't want to pick up on those other things they do because that's them and it's just not me. But that particular aspect, it's almost learning, leadership skills by finding somebody who's that much better at that I could sort of get to that, maybe that next step on.
Yeah, for sure. And like to me, the most fun thing about leadership is we're people trying to influence other people. So it's never the same. And you're just constantly seeing in this situation what might work, or oh my gosh, I just totally blundered this situation. I was just in a call with marketing and I cut someone off 3 times and I sounded like a big jerk, and then you think about it and you say, okay, how could I do that better next time?
And there was another one. For a number of years, I worked with an executive MBA program and basically helping each cohort think more around how to set up teams more effectively. And I can remember at a lunch break, I was listening just kind of in the line to the conversation of the people in front of me. And it came up something around how was the comment he made? Well, I didn't know, but you can never admit you don't know as a leader. And it just caught my ear and I went, talk to me more about that. And it triggered this great big conversation where you had sort of one side, there's several of them. One side was kind of going, well, no, because if you don't know what you're doing, how would your team respect you? And then the other side that started going, yeah, but if you don't know, you don't think they don't know that already? Like they can see you don't know, and you not being honest about it is actually going to diminish, how they think about you as a leader. So how do you handle that? Sometimes increasingly in the high-speed change, the stuff that's going on as you move up through the leadership ranks, there's lots of things you don't know. How do you tend to find that works, or how do you handle that often?
Yeah, I think 2 of the most powerful phrases we can use as leaders are I don't know and I am sorry. And I think it's very okay to be both of those. I really try to be honest in everything I do. And I'm not going to tell you I've never told a lie because I most certainly have. But people know when you're faking it. And even if you weren't faking it, like I don't want to work for a leader that thinks that they have all the answers, that thinks they know everything. I mean, that's insane. So again, if we can't be authentic with our team, heck, who can we be authentic with? I say, I don't know, like a bazillion times a day. And it's usually followed by, let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
And people like, hey, I work in tech, Anton, you have clients in all spaces, but we're dealing with, our colleagues are incredibly intelligent people.
Yes.
they want to be a part of creating the solution. They don't want to be told explicitly
Mm.
what to do by this oracle of knowledge. And then to me, like, I think my clients have taught me the most and it's made me a better leader, but something's going to go wrong. You're going to make a mistake. And starting a conversation with, it's my fault, I'm sorry, then typically disarms the conversation,
Yeah.
especially if you're genuine and you actually mean it. And then we can go to, all right, how can we fix this?
Well, it's a classic, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, is a kind of a classic trust builder, right? It's like I'm being vulnerable, I'm owning up to this, I'm owning my piece of it. Now let's do something about it. And I think that's I think of other conversations. I was listening to three senior leaders and they were asking the question, very genuinely, in this company I work with, why don't they ask for more help? And it was a genuine question. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to them, and I work with all levels in this organization. And I said, well, let me ask you this. When was the last time you asked them, because them being was the teams that reported to them, when was the last time you asked them for help? And they all looked at me with these very blank expressions, like, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you're not actually asking them for help, why on earth would they ask you? Because the impression that's being given is it's okay if I'm junior, I don't know, I'm failing, please give me help. But if I'm a senior or as a senior leader, I can't ask for help because that would mean I don't know what I'm doing. Again, we get caught up in our own heads around this, around how does that come across or how does that work? But as you said, I think that asking for help is along that with I'm sorry and I messed up is again one of the most disarming but also conversation openers. You go to somebody and say, hey, I've noticed you're really good at, I know, brainstorming, new areas of product. We're kind of stuck. Could you come in and help us out? How do you think that person is going to be feeling?
Yeah, they're gonna
Right?
feel good. I love this one, Anton. This is great advice because I really, really struggle with asking for help. It's just part of my DNA of
Yeah.
self-reliance. But you're so right, and we're talking about scaling leadership today. If we don't ask for help as leaders, we'll never scale. So then we're failing as leaders. And then to your question, we go to someone and we say, hey, I really need your help, they're going to feel good. They're
Mm.
going to want to be engaged. They're going to be like, sweet, boss has got me doing this special thing, or I'm having an impact here.
Yeah.
And as we think as leaders, we want to hire teams that complement our weaknesses and make it so as a team we have a collectively larger stack of skills. I guess if we're not asking for help or if we don't feel our team can provide that help, we haven't effectively done that too. So I'm going to take a post-it from this success and conversation of like, ask 3 people for help today because we'll probably be able to influence more and go faster
Yeah.
when we do that.
Yeah. Let's sort of wrap up with just thinking around any last thoughts around that idea of, or if you have a lot of people coming to you now themselves going, and let's think back to that idea we said at the beginning, maybe emulating they come to you say, I'd love to get your thoughts or advice or mentorship in terms of me as I'm going into my leadership journey. What are some of the advice that the top two tips that you might be giving to somebody as they're facing that same journey themselves?
Yeah, it's funny, Anton. When I started the 7th grade, all the teachers had been sent to some sort of inspirational in-service at the beginning of the year. And they all had these 3 classroom rules they were going to start the year with. And at the time, I just rolled my eyes and thought, this is cheesy. And the school district overpaid for this inspirational talk. And then for the last 6 weeks, I think I've repeated this advice like 8 times to clients. But to me, new leader, I'll give you these 3 things that all the teachers made the classroom rules. It was a quote of Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz, but it was do what's right, do your best, and treat others the way you wish to be treated. And I couldn't think of a more simple rubric for being a leader.
Nice way to finish on that. Thanks very much for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anton.